would like first to commend African Leadership Group, particularly PAP. What I heard this morning, the testimony from the current governor and the Attorney General, the President of Senate, made me very proud. Because as a Consul General of Senegal, it's what I want to see for my community. We are very proud. On behalf of Senegalese government, PAP, I would like to express to you, to all the African diaspora here, how we are proud to have one Senegalese leaders to be highlighted in a way we saw this morning. It's why I'm very grateful to come here for my second time in this beautiful city of Denver in order to support you. I know this morning we already heard a very interesting keynote of Mr. McKenna. I would like just to add some few points as a perspective for me in order to see how Africa wants to build strategic and strong partnership with the United States. I'm especially pleased to be here in Denver, a city internationally recognized for its dynamic entrepreneurial culture, thriving innovation ecosystem, leadership in clean energy, aerospace, advanced manufacturing, life science, and technology. Colorado demonstrates how innovation, research, private enterprise, and public policy can work together to build resilient and competitive economy. They are precisely the kind of experience and partnership that can inspire mutually beneficial cooperation between the United States and African countries. And you all know now the narrative about Africa is evolving. The question is no longer whether Africa represents an investment opportunity. The evidence is clear. We have the youngest population in the world, educated, a rapid middle class expanding, a digital transformation, abundant natural resources, and the African Continental Free Trade Area, the largest integrated market in the world by number of participating countries. The real challenge for us now is to know exactly how we can transform these opportunities to action. Concrete project, bankable project, is the question we have to answer today. How we can ensure that economic growth create quality jobs, support innovation, empower women and youth, and contribute to sustainable development. These questions are particularly relevant in the context of the depending commercial relationship between the United States and Africa. The United States increasingly recognizes Africa not merely as a development partner, but as a strategic economic partner. American companies are seeking a reliable market, resilient supply chain, a new center for innovation. At the same time, African countries are creating stronger regulatory framework, investing in infrastructure, improving governance, and expanding opportunity for private sector participation. The African diaspora, in the other way, particularly here in the United States, occupy a unique position in this evolving partnership. Beyond the millions of dollars in annual remittance, the diaspora bring entrepreneurial experience, technological expertise, access to capital, and invaluable business network. The future of US-Africa economic relation will not be built by government only. It will also be built by entrepreneurs, innovators, universities, chamber of commerce, venture capital, firm, financial institution, and members of our diaspora who serve as bridge between our continent. For Senegal, the vision is embodied in Senegal Vision 2050, the national transformation agenda that seeks to build a sovereign, prosperous, competitive, and inclusive economy. The Vision 2050 places particular emphasis on structural transformation through industrialization, value addition, food security, digital innovation, and energy transition. Senegal welcomes partnership that go beyond transaction. We seek partnership that create industries rather than dependency. Partnership that transfer technology and skill. Partnership that strengthen local value change. Partnership that generate decent employment for our youth. And partnership that produce shared prosperity for Africa and our international partners. As Consul General of Senegal in New York, I have the privilege to witness growing interest from American businesses looking towards Senegal as strategic partner in order to enter the West African market. Our country political stability, strategic geographic location, modern infrastructure, expanding energy sector, dynamic entrepreneurial ecosystem, and commitment to economic reform position Senegal as a trust destination for investment. Ladies and gentlemen, potential does not create jobs. Potential does not build factories. Potential does not finance innovation. We need action. Action does. And action means for us investment in our key sector identified by us in order to create a shared prosperity. Action means for us partnership. We have to build partnership. We want partnership in our key area, not only to get driven, but as a people. We want to work together. It's a new partnership we want to build with US, and I think all African countries are in the same way. And I know that such platform will go beyond only discussion, but propose a real partnership, how we can finance today our economy. We have a lot of challenges. We have the people, talented people, educated. We are ready for work. We have a lot of potential, but we need to go to real action. I hope today's discussion will generate practical recommendations, propose new partnership and concrete commitment. We heard this morning a very interesting keynote speaker. I think the panel will come now, will continue in the same path and offer a new reflection regarding our future partnership with US. The future of Africa will not be written by only spectators. It will be written by partners willing to invest, innovate, and build together. I want to congratulate again PAP for giving us this platform. I think this is an amazing platform. And I'm sure that the panel will go through deeper in this reflection in order to see how we can improve our partnership, how we can build a strong economy by showing the potential we have and get the help from United States in order to move from opportunity to action. Thank you so much.
Please continue that for the Consul General of Senegal. Thank you so, so very much. And now Papa is going to present him with a special award.
So, on behalf of the entire African community and Black community in the state of Colorado, we would like to present this award to you, the symbol of the African logo, African Leadership Group logo. This is the African Wisdom Nut. And we would like to recognize your dedication and your commitment to service, being here to serve not only Senegalese community, but the broader African diaspora community.
Absolutely. Thank you both. It is now, we are really going to turn to, before we get to the panel, we're going to turn to one of the individuals who is going to be a part of the panel as well. This is about the investment outlook. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I would like for you to please welcome Dr. Sheikh Mboop to the stage, please.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I don't know what we did to Papa for him to put us right after lunch. But whatever we did, perhaps we should have asked for an apology way long time ago, because we don't look like great desserts. But His Excellency, the Consul General, did an outstanding job of highlighting this element. Look, for all of you that are here, I'm sure we'll hear it over and over again. And sometimes you get numb to the idea of hearing a comment, and you get to this element in which you feel that what you've heard no longer needs to be recognized and highlighted. But we can't afford to be numb to the following. What you've created to have contingency for over 2 decades is beyond applaudable. Because sometimes doing something one time could be a hazard. A second time could be put in a bucket of luckiness. By the time you reach 5, 6, 8, 9, you may get lazy. You stop. To make it 2 decades is a true image of persistence. It's a true image of the state in which is welcome him. So please, a round of applause for Papa again. I thought about the discussion of today. And I know it's around business. But I would like to walk away from business for a second and talk about relationship. I have the opportunity to have parents that spread across 2 continents. And I don't mean physically in terms of my mother and my father. I mean, I had a chance to grow up in Senegal. I was born in Senegal, left the country when I was 13 years old. So I tend to call Senegal my mother. But then you tend to live in another nation. You learn, you go through the teenage years. You get to learn what life is truly about. These baskets and bubble that was created at such an early stage, allowing you to just no longer worry about what to eat for lunch or dinner, because the parents take care of it, allowing you to not even put attention to what a cost of energy bill may be, fades away. And now you're in another segment. And that segment is fatherhood. So I like to call the United States my father. But when you combine the two, it has produced many elements. I may be a testimony to it, especially when I do good. When I do bad, blame someone else. But in that same spirit, of a father and a mother, you got to think about then what is then partnership. In that same spirit of a father and a mother, you tend to go through challenges. And there's this trade that occurs. And if one becomes arrogant enough to think you contribute more than the other, the relationship dies. So there's got to be this share segment in which every single one of these individuals feels they will fulfill their responsibility just adequately. That's business. Senegal, as the mother, is now in a position where the nation gives people access to over 12 other nations, which is considered the ECOWAS. There are 400 million individuals that are consumers today. In the world of business, it's a matter of supply and demand. If you have supply without the demand, you might as well say you don't have a business. But if you have a demand without the supply, you have true inflation. It just takes time for someone to create what that demand is requiring, and that person becomes successful. So in that spirit, Senegal, as a mother, has given birth to access to 12 nations within Africa. And it's asking everyone to have the opportunity to come invest through it, not just for Senegal, but for a way to amplify whatever sector you're in, whatever business you've created through ECOWAS. 400 million people, as the Consul General stated, one of the youngest crowd in the world, and in the case of Senegal, over 57.4% are below the age of 19 and a half years. That, my friend, is generational investment. And these investments, sometimes people think it's a matter of being in a position in which you have to have $1 million to do so. It's a myth. You don't. If you look at this chart, it takes you from $10,000 up. And sometimes when you say that, people ask themselves, well, how can the $10,000 go that far? Well, ladies and gentlemen, there are many paths. Whatever you sell or have the opportunity to consume in here, if it's a gap in another nation, that is a supply and demand answer. Whatever intellectual property you possess in this country, allowing you to access the country of Senegal, that, my friend, is a supply and demand request. And that's what this ability invites every single individual to marry this other mother of mine called Senegal. And it's not one way. What we've noticed over time is that Senegalese investment to the United States is also a need. Recently, we hit our first $1 billion of trade between the two nations. The two nations have attempted to reach that number since 1997 and continue to fail at it. We've seen peaks where the number have reached 700, 800 million, and it drops back to our average number of 365 million between the two. But we hit a 1 billion, and I'll share with you the secret behind that. But there are Senegalese in a position to be invited here within the United States and invest. Because what they possess, whether it is the capital, we know the food element. Food tends to be the easiest entry level to a nation, and food allows you to have emotional connection. When you walk into fill in the blank X restaurant, all of a sudden you have the opportunity to travel to such nation. And food allows you to put your guards down and just consume. For some of us, reason why we may be falling asleep right now. I'm not looking at any direction specifically. But if you're not falling asleep, you understand that food is a common denominator. So those Senegalese investors having the opportunity to come here, we tend to remind them that such opportunity is there. It is there through the idea of real estate. It is there through the birth of technology. We have one individual in here who has done so. It is there through various paths. And on the other hand, when you think of the United States itself, the position that it plays, it has the ability to do the same thing towards Senegal, but in many different ways. I mentioned the $1 billion capital, the $1 billion trade that these two nations have faced, when one of them only has 17, 18 million people. And yet, the trade reached $1 billion. The expectations and my commitment to the Senegalese government that we will reach that $1.5 billion by 2035. And we will do so because there is this now fluent relationship that exists and benefits both nations. And put it in perspective. Recently, I'm sure some of you had a chance to go to a Costco or a natural store that you've had a chance to visit. One of the gaps you might find on the shelf is sardines. It's empty. The United States faced its greatest deficiency of sardines these last 74 days. The number one producer of sardines in the world is Senegal. The number one producer of sardines is Senegal. And it's because of something very simple that God has created and none of us could take credit for. Sardines tend to travel throughout the coast, and they tend to chase the weather. At the time in which they land in the port near Dakar, Senegal, and St. Louis and Rosso Becho, that northern part of the continent, of the country, what they do, they pause and they lay their eggs. And then they leave. Because of that departure, 150,000 sardines, 50,000 kilograms of sardines is producible on a daily basis for 74 days. It makes Senegal the hub. So recently we had a large company in America. Last week we went to Senegal to actually start figuring out how to absolutely tap into such network. Again, when a mother and a father get together, miracles happen. And as we transition to that, sometimes you think, as we said earlier, that it requires a large investment to do so. I'm going to share with you an element here of $100,000. And I'll travel through this journey of $100,000, but I want you to just say to yourself, it has the name of a company that was just removed. This is a real life experience. Senegal took the time to create a company called Apex. And it's their only roles and responsibilities to create fluidity for those businesses that come into the country. Give them the chance to not have to go through the various barriers that we all know as we decide or not decide to talk about it, such as corruption. Apex takes you and teaches you how to get your licenses and your permits in order to function within the Senegalese country, which means giving you access to 12 nations, ECOWAS. 12 nations that you won't have to pay any taxes or import fees, custom fees, simply because you went through one of their members, Senegal. So this $100,000, if you come in with it, Apex will show you, if you decide to get into, let's say, warehousing. In this instance, you don't buy anything. It's a warehousing. The warehouse itself is offered by the government of Senegal in an area called Diamniadio, giving you 400 square feet all the way to 1,500 square feet for free. As long as you continue to fulfill your responsibility as is declared in here. Hire 5 employees. Trade within the nation. In this case, this company within a year could generate immediately. Let me give you an example of such. You have the electrical bikes that I see in here. Don't take this idea somebody's doing it and just started actually about a month and a half ago. So if you steal that idea and I get sued, I'm going to blame you. But this gentleman takes his electrical bikes. And he takes them from the United States. And he took them to Senegal. At $100,000, he's just a broker. He's not buying them. Because each one of these are geofenced and traceable by the manufacturer. Instead of taking it from another nation, he decided to take it here from the United States, coming from San Diego, California. This bike's now exported to Senegal. Now he has his warehouse, $100,000. How much did he pay for licensing? 0. How much taxation was he charged with? 0. What about the electrical bikes? How much custom fees will apply to them? 0, because he decided to go through the investment channel. And now, how many customers does he have access to potentially? Thank you. Some of you, the lunch did not bury you. 400 million. The youngest crowd. The right market for this item. And now this individual, all of a sudden, will have access to this, paid 0 to get into it, hires 5 employees. The nation of Senegal won, as His Excellency said, that is the fair trade that these two countries are chasing on a daily basis. And that is reproducible at any level, like each one of you, based on what you do, to have the ability to reproduce the same market. Put yourself in a position in which your business, or your item in this case, meets the perfect demand. And we see the same thing when you think of a larger scale. At $1 billion, at $1 million. What we've learned recently is this $1 million in a country like in Senegal doesn't just do one thing. It's not just a supply and demand element. Because the average individual in Senegal lives in the households of through 2 to 3 generations. When such individual is able to have this loyal income, he or she pushes the envelope of poverty. He or she pushes the dependency onto one. He or she creates an economical power that the nation is searching for that has way more impact than any donation it could get. That's why the country decided to make it so easy for anyone to come and welcome them. That's why the nation took the position of introducing Apex, whose sole role and responsibility, this army assembled this large group, went to Senegal, had the chance not only to train, but to learn segments of their field that sometimes is hard to practice in here. We've seen the same thing in business. The founder of Chobani, recently I took him to Senegal. He creates this yogurt, as you all are familiar with it, from Vermont. Goes through on any daily basis over 12 million yogurt on a daily basis. And we're talking about how do we take these cows that are in this country of Senegal that continue to produce one of the purest milk you can find, but yet because of a transportation deficiency, intellectual property deficiency, ability to understand the sector deficiency, whether they find themselves in, it goes to waste. Shrink is almost 90%. 90%. And this short little trip showed us so much. But that's the beauty of partnership. That's the beauty of when a mother and a father decide to contribute to a sole goal. Success is reached at any given time. America has something to provide, ladies and gentlemen. This father of mine has something to provide. It provides capital, which meets demand. It provides technology, which meets a young crowd that's ready to consume it. It provides the willingness that it has tried something over 250 years versus a young child that was born in 1960, in April of 1960, that now could literally just fast pace this learning curve. On the other hand, this other nation has a lot to offer. Agriculture. Agriculture that allows you to reach not just one stomach, but three. Let me give you an example of cashews. Cashews has 9 steps. Each one of those steps is a need in our society. The fruit itself is consumable and now used by Pfizer to produce an element. The shell is biomedical. The cashews itself, now we're saying how good is it for you, for your cholesterols, and so forth and so on. Don't take that as an excuse to go and buy yourself a pound of it. But the reason is, it's there, right? It's a consumable element. And yet, nations like this country of Senegal, whether it's peanuts or cashews, tend to have more shrink than usable product. That's where you come in. And that's the power that I'm asking for each one of you to help today, to act now. This idea of acting now sometimes we think is governmental. To the government leaders that are in this room, I ask you, this is your opportunity and take advantage of it. They're not responsible. It's not their job. It is the job of those investors. Those of you who have the audacity to take a business, a dream of a business, and tend to meet someone who may buy or refuse to buy, considering both. Those are the ones that I invite to look into something like this. And I ask you to think of just a very phenomenal number, to start from 10,000 up. I ask you, if the fund is not available, think of the idea that you have. And I invite you to challenge your counterpart, whether they're from Senegal or take the trip to go there. Use it as a vacation. Use it as a moment to identify the business opportunities, because if you penetrate such market, you've penetrated a market larger than the United States 20 years from now. At last, and every time we look at business, you can think of the innovations we may be the most familiar with, which is this idea of AI now that everyone talks about. Some shy away from it, and I say to those who shy away from it, you're shying away from your future and your presence. It's the same. It's funny, I was reading this article. When you guys get a chance, you go on YouTube, there's this funny video, and this video kind of walks you through innovations and the skepticism behind innovations. It takes you to the Model T of Ford, when those were saying, a horse, this will never replace a horse. I don't find a lot of horseback riders in here anymore. To the typewriter. I remember some of you, I say to myself I'm 22. That's the lie that I've kept to myself. But I do, hopefully some of you will agree that I look 22. If you do, you're my friend. If you don't talk to me afterwards. But, you know, we remember the days of the 1-800 number versus website. Should you have an 800 number? Should you have a website? If you didn't have an 800 number, you were not legitimate. Nowadays, you have companies that don't even give you phone numbers. Those who were skeptical at the time of that website have died. Skepticism is the beginning of death. I know we can't be skeptical in this room because we're taking the time to be here. So I invite you, as you think of business, there are two groups: those who shape it and those who consume it. This shaping element does not require $1 million, nor 10. It requires the willingness and the audacity to try. And if we do that, I believe this mother and father, United States and Senegal, will continue to produce more than our eyes could ever see. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are going to have just a short little piece here. You need this? We're going to have a slight change. If y'all are familiar with sports, you know I'm about to call an audible. So this morning, by the way, let us thank Dr. Mboop for that. That was wonderful, sir. Thank you so very much. You are smooth as butter, no question. So if this morning you were with us, you heard me talk about the first black dude I had introduced. He was not here, so Senator Coleman became the second black dude, right? Y'all were with me? Well, the first black dude has shown up. That would be Congressman Joe Neguse. Please welcome him to the stage. After he speaks, then we will resume the panel.
Well, good afternoon. First and foremost, thank you, Gloria, for the introduction. This morning that I didn't have an opportunity to hear, but I heard it was glowing. And so I'm very grateful to you, of course, for your friendship, your partnership, and the work that you do each and every day in our community. I also want to say thank you to Papa Dia and the African Leadership Group for the invitation, and my apologies that I couldn't be here this morning, but grateful to have the opportunity to visit with all of you this afternoon, and perhaps more fitting that I visit with you at the close or close to the close of today's proceedings rather than the beginning, because I imagine it has been a very fulsome day. Having reviewed the various panels and sessions that you all have engaged in, the networking and the partnerships that I suspect you've developed during the course of today, I have no doubt that it has been, as is often the case with the programming that the African Leadership Group puts on, incredibly meaningful and I hope fruitful for years to come. As was mentioned, I represent Colorado's 2nd Congressional District in the United States Congress. I grew up in Colorado, but my parents, as many of you know, were born in Eritrea, came to this country over 40 years ago. And for me, being the first black congressman in Colorado's history, being an Eritrean American, being a part of the African diaspora community here in Colorado and beyond, there is not a day that goes by that I have not worked to try to advance in what I believe to be the mutual beneficial relationship that all of you have come today to discuss and to build. I wish I had better news to share in terms of the developments in Washington, D.C. I'm sure y'all read the newspapers, y'all watch the news, and so you know that not all the developments over the course of this last year and a half have been positive. And in particular, I believe that the relationship between the United States and Africa as a continent, which of course is incredibly diverse and unique and robust in terms of the various countries in Africa, have been frayed, that the relationships are not as robust as they once were. There is a lot of uncertainty right now, particularly when it comes to trade. The Millennium Challenge Corporation, just by way of example, now being a bit in flummox in terms of the status of the MCC. That being said, there are silver linings and I think potential opportunities on the horizon. And to give you just one example, I was proud to be a part of a House majority that ultimately got AGOA, the Extension Act for AGOA, across the finish line in the House of Representatives, so that ultimately we can get that to the president's desk. It's important. It is important and an important step, and we're hopeful that we can use that as a building block to ultimately further develop the trade relationships that exist between the United States and Africa, from East Africa to Sub-Saharan Africa to the Horn of Africa, of course, to West Africa. And it's not lost on me that we have perhaps an overrepresentation today from our friends in West Africa. And to the Consul General of Senegal, we say thank you for being a part of today's important proceedings. Now, it is dangerous for an Eritrean American to start talking about Senegalese traditions. I'm looking at Papa Dia over here. But I was doing some research this morning. And the word I'm sure I'm gonna butcher it here. Is it Tagar? What's the phrase? Taranya. There we go. I got it. All right. So I wasn't completely offline here. Again, like I said, Eritrean American, so it's a bit distance away. But as I search, I think, for the right way to describe this mutually beneficial relationship, the notion that Coloradans and Americans should have open hearts towards our Senegalese neighbors and folks across the continent, that we should approach that relationship with an open mind and with a spirit of generosity and mutually beneficial relationships. To me, that is, in effect, what we're seeking to achieve and what I think ALG is seeking to cultivate. And so I don't know that I could come up with a more fitting description of what we all collectively should be working to try to accomplish here in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. The last thing I will say, and this is maybe a bit afield from the core part of the discussions that you all have been having, but I do think just as equally important as the potential trade opportunities and the business partnerships and relationships that you all are exploring today are the educational partnerships as well. One of my favorite quotes is from Nelson Mandela, that education is the most powerful weapon for which we can use to change the world. That is certainly the case for me personally as someone who has benefited greatly from the ability to go to public schools here in Colorado and get a college degree, a law education, and ultimately now serve in the United States Congress. I know that is true of so many folks here in this auditorium. And I do think, as I contemplate the next Congress, the 120th Congress, and the potential opportunities that might exist on the horizon, finding ways to create more synergies from an educational standpoint between educational institutions across the continent and here at home in the United States, I think is something that we ought to be doubling down on. It is atrophied in many ways, and I think there's no better time than the present to perhaps find a way to retool and rekindle those partnerships. So in any event, I digress. I know that you all have more panel discussions to come, and I hate to interrupt those. I will just simply say thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the conversations, the discussions that you all are having, and know that you will have a partner here in the United States Congress, someone who's supportive of the work that you all are doing. God bless, and keep up the great work. So, thank you for having me.
Congressman Joe Neguse, he is someone who always makes us proud, does he not? Makes us proud. To be the first black congressman from the state of Colorado, he is someone who definitely has an extremely bright future, not just in politics, but just everything that he has done. So we are happy he was able to join us today. We will continue to have a conversation about business, doing business, and investing in Africa. Joining Dr. Mboop, you saw him up here earlier. He is going to come back up so we can resume this panel. Dr. Mboop, also we have Dr. M. Ibrahima Noor Adine Janine. We also have Monica Labiche Brown, and we have Ken Floyd. I said earlier to Papa Dia, thank you, Lord, for a Ken Floyd, because these names have been honey. Right? I mean, my brothers and sisters from across the pond and on the continent, I love y'all, but Lord have mercy. They are beautiful, but you know I was up last night, hooked all the way on phonics. I just want y'all to know that. I was hooked. I'm like, I'm going to get these names. This is important to me. So thank you all so very much. Please, can we welcome the panel up with a round of applause, please? And by the way, following the panel and the questions, of course, Jason will be up here once again putting your questions before the panel. So please make sure you copy that QR code and get those questions in. You guys had some phenomenal questions for the early part of the day. So let's close this out with a lot of good questions before we go up to the rooftop and let's just say enjoy some libations. Agreed? Agreed.
All right. Thanks for Ken Floyd. So, Congressman, it was a pleasure and an honor to have you. Thank you so much for your time, for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a day. And I just wanted to digress a little bit. I think we should dare to talk about the World Cup and talk about Argentina. Should we?
You know, you want to start a fight?
No, we won't do that. We will not do that. Let me do this. Let me find my question here, and we'll dive deep into the conversation, because we have some important dialogue, and we want to make sure we build in enough time for the audience. And as Glo mentioned, please use the QR code and send in your question. We'll make sure that we allocate enough time. You have the bio for each of these panelists, but I want to invite them on a quick intro, not like what they do or who they are, but a quick perspective about the continent of Africa and the relationship it could have with the United States. And we'll start with Dr. Ibrahim. Yes, turn it.
It's okay, okay. Thank you very much, Pap. First, I would like to congratulate you. I think that the name of your organization, African Leadership, is fully clear to me. And I apologize for the audience. This afternoon, my English become very tough, and often I'm the only one who understands what I'm saying. So I will go to your question. I will start by the assumption that in Africa, I used to say when I am in a conference that when a dream starts in a room in the US, there is a lot of chance that dream becomes something that will end up at the stock market. And when the same dream starts in a room in Africa, there is a lot of chance that the dream stay in the same room. So what is the difference between the environment that allow any dream to become a success, and in Africa, most of the dream stay at the stage of a dream? We have a lot of story to tell about it, but I will tell you my story. In '95, maybe most of the people in this room was quite young, or maybe not yet born. Senegal has decided before the internet, because the internet started in Senegal in '96, Senegal has decided to implement a network that will allow all traders to make import and export transactions through a unique platform. I was a part of that dream. I was a young, just coming freshly after my graduation in Senegal, and I was a part of that dream. What we did in '95, we looked for the country in the world that has already implemented something that is looking like the same. It was Singapore. We went to Singapore. I was not speaking English like I'm talking today. And we tried to see how they achieve, because as you may know, the biggest port in the world is the one of Singapore. And Singapore is a small piece of land, a country, but you cannot drive more than 1 hour without getting out of the border of the country. And when we went back from Singapore, we decided that we will build a system different from the one of Singapore, which was tied with the old technology of EDI, with the internet. And then Senegal was the second country in the world implementing a digital platform for trade and import. And that things show me that it's not because you are from Africa that you may have small dreams. And I have to say that that dream was possible because there was a leadership, a strong leadership, and it was a lady. She was the director of international trade, and she was the one who would take that story. So this is the first story I would like to share with you, and this has opened my eyes that most of the things that we are not achieving in Africa is because we are putting ourselves, our own limitation. We can do everything we want. If you go in Dubai, they have created Emirates, a small country, a big airline. If you go to Sweden, they have created IKEA, a small country, a big company. And if you are in Africa, you will just have minerals and raw materials, but you will not have among the 10 major countries of any sector which will be an African. So it has changed my way of perception. Now I'm not fighting for Senegal, I'm fighting for Africa. Because I represent Africa, I don't represent Senegal. Anywhere I am in the world, I will take the responsibility of representing Africa. What is the problem of Africa? 54 flags. So if you have 54 flags, I know in this country also you have 52 flags, but you have something federal that the flag with the stars. And this is what we need to have in Africa. Maybe he said in the beginning that Senegal is a window of ECOWAS. ECOWAS is 15 countries. But also Senegal is a gateway to the new free trade continental agreement, making all the African countries, if you invest and you produce from Africa, is the same case of ALENA, NAFTA. ALENA is the French way. What you have in North America, we have it in Africa. And the thing is, the infrastructure, unfortunately, will not follow as it should. Because if you want to ship from Dakar to Cote d'Ivoire, two-hour flight. I flew from New York to Denver, 4 hours. But the goods will not follow that way because the infrastructure are very poor. And the African Development Bank is working very hard to interconnect. But there is a dependency. We are not the one who decide what we want. We are not the one who decide the speed we want things to be implemented. We are in a world where there is two big organizations, one called IMF, the other one called World Bank. And for now 15 years, any country has been developed following the instructions they are given. But we still are just stepping back them and listen them to tell us the story. That is not our story. Because development is a necessity for the African. Because we have young population and we need to leave them a future. And we cannot, decade after decade, repeat the same process without having any result. I'm very sorry, I've been so long, you just asked me one question and I tell you my life. But it was to be sure that if you don't give me back the microphone,
you're fine. Thank you so much. And Monica, I'll go to you. And I know you've done a lot of work in the social impact approach as somebody that comes from the nonprofit sector. What is your view when it comes to the continent with the social impact work and when it comes to opportunity of development and investment?
So one of the things that I would emphasize is that there is a lot of development going on in Africa and in many of the countries, and each one is different from the other. However, one of the things that we need to pay attention to is rural development. The majority of the people are in these rural areas. And when I went to Uganda, a country that I had grown up in and had lived for 15 years, when I went back about 30 years later, what I realized was that the rural communities had not moved an iota. Everything was the way it had been as I was a kid. And so in looking at development, it's like a lot of things are happening, and there's a lot of urbanization, but women and the rural communities are being left behind, And that is an area that we still have to focus on if we want to make sure that the whole country or the whole continent prospers.
Yeah, thank you. And that's a good point. So Ken, I'll come to you. You attended last year African Leadership Group Summit as a panelist, and you developed some relationship through ALG, and you traveled to Senegal actually, and began making social impact investment. Walk us through that journey, and what moved you from interest into action?
Thank you, Papa. Good afternoon. And for Gloria's sake, Kenneth Ray Floyd. How about that? Add a little flavor to it. And I say to my brothers and sisters from Africa, Assalamu alaikum. Let me give you a little context. So, if you haven't noticed, I consider myself in the fourth quarter of my journey on this planet we call Earth. Now, I don't know if I'm in the beginning of the fourth quarter, whether I'm in overtime or where we are, but I'm in the fourth quarter. I started my journey as a little black kid born in the southeast part of this country, in Mississippi, in the 1950s. Now, wrap your mind around that. Father died early, a mother with 8 kids. Let's just put it this way, it wasn't easy. But one thing we learned was hard work, and I'll elaborate on that a little bit later. So my journey has taken me from there through various and sundry routes to when I came to Colorado 20 years ago, I came here as a senior vice president of marketing and customer service for Xcel Energy. $11 billion company, 2,000 employees working in my organization. Think about that journey. And I've had the privilege of traveling in most of the world. Southeast Asia, places like Bangladesh and Thailand and India and China, you name it, all over Europe. I spent a fair amount of time in Europe. My wife and I spent a fair amount of time in Mexico and a small amount of time now, these days, in Colorado. But the opportunity to be able to sit up on this stage and tell this story, there are very few places in the world where you can do that except America. With all her flaws, with all her challenges, and Lord knows we have challenges, but there are very few places in the world you can do that. So I'm a partner at a small investment firm. We do investments in the utility space. I'm currently working on a project in Alaska, a data center project. We just raised $200 million. We expect this project to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $30 to $50 billion. There's not many places you can do that. So now I want to digress just a second. My relationship with Africa. I want to use a different analogy, but it's sports, it's baseball. I'm in the first inning with my relationship with Africa. I just started this journey. For the last 10 years, I've had this itch, this desire to spend more time in the motherland, and I'll call it that. I'm not the guy, the DJ, or whoever the guy was from New Jersey that McKenna was talking about this morning. I'm going to call it the motherland. I've been to Morocco a few times, was blessed to go to Senegal with Papa last year, and it was one of the most humbling, amazing, inspiring experiences that I've ever had in this journey that I call life. Unbelievable. So work in the investment phase. And we've heard a lot about trade between the countries. That's really important. We're talking about the micro level. But like life, there are various layers of life. We don't start walking, we start crawling. And what I saw and what impacted me, I didn't go to Senegal to make an investment. I went to Senegal because I fell in love with Papa, Astu, the African Leadership Group, and what they were doing here. And when I went there, it led me to not write a check from an investment standpoint, a corporate investment standpoint, but a personal check and social impact. How can I have an impact in people's life? And I tell you, don't just walk away. The importance of trade, country to country level, that cannot be overstated, or it cannot be understated, however, whatever perspective you use. But spending your time, committing time to mentor one of these young brothers or sisters in Africa that don't have the ability, as Papa mentioned, to dream like we dream, to take a journey like I've been able to take the journey in my career, I cannot overstate how important that is. And I would just appeal to you, please, when you leave here, if you don't do anything else, if you don't write a check, figure out how I can share my experience with some of these fellow human beings that occupy this planet we call Earth in Africa. All they need, all some of them need is just some inspiration, some guidance, some mentoring. Fell in love with the journey, going back again this December. Hopefully I'll see some of the folks in this room on that journey with us. So I know I took a little bit more time. I didn't take as much time as this brother here did. I took a little bit more time than Monica. But I'll be around after this to talk a little bit more about my story. I have more to say, but McKenna took all of my thunder this morning, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
Thank you, Ken. And to his point, we spent time in Senegal last year. It's remarkable. I wish we could have time to dive deep into it, but the social impact that we are making, especially around mentorship, it's transformational. So thank you for that. Sheikh, I'm going to come to you. In our preparation conversation, you spoke about investment as a pathway to dignity through income, employment, and enterprises. What does that principle look like in actual investment decision?
Why are you giving me the hard question? No, look, it's a great point. First of all, I think I have to reflect back to 2016. I was with a hedge fund company, and we were asked to work with a project that was in Kigali, in Rwanda. And after 2014, actually, in 2016, 2 years after finishing the project, we met with President Kagame, who I've been advising since 2016 until now. But I learned something from him. One of the first projects he put together was this fund that was allowing mothers, women, to come and get a funding on microfinance. So he basically funded, which we have in Senegal, these credit union banks. And their fundings were loan that was forgiven if you employed 2 to 3 people for 12 months. Now it's, I think, 36 months. But what it did was it started to give birth to a new generation of individuals who saw potential what could happen. If you look at the GDP of the entire continent, the country with the highest multiplier of GDP out of all 54 is actually Rwanda. This last 10 years, right, has grown tremendously. Now considered one of the cleanest country because the trash is privatized and you could just buy a little street, and so it became this microsystem that was created. So what does it do to any one of us when we go home and we're able to purchase something for that loved one? You raise your shoulders much higher. So investment, or a way of feeding your family or loved ones, is a booster to dignity in any way, shape, or form. Donation, on the other hand, eliminates such. So it's very good that I think the nations are talking about how to do investments and mentorship. As mentioned, I think there are no trades for that. So,
thank you. I'm going to squeeze in my second question, and hope you guys sending your question to. All right. So I got to ask this question to all of you. As often presented through conflict, instability, crisis, while growth, investment, and success receive far less attention, and especially to start with you, for a continent that's being portrayed this way, civil war, crisis, what attracts you to Africa, and what could attract to any investor or anybody that would like to go to a continent that's being portrayed in such a way?
Thank you. Thank you for that. Look, it's hard. I mean, with mainstream media, with all this access to information that we have today, sometimes it's really hard to block out the noise. I mean, there's so much coming at us. What do we hear from Africa? Look, I spend a fair amount of my time. We have a small footprint in Europe. I was just in Europe. Just came back, from Madrid. You know what was on the headlines of Madrid? I mean, we're talking about, these African migrants bum rushing Ceuta in Spain. That's happening, and there's more to that story. But some folks look at that and say, well, why am I going to invest my money there? Okay, if you don't want to invest your money, these are fellow human beings. Think about investing your time. I can make the argument why you should invest your money there. We don't talk much about, there's parts of Africa that have a stock market that's more robust than what we have in this country. Earnings were higher. South Africa just got $100 billion to rebuild, $1 billion, 100 million, 800, I think it was close to $900 million to rebuild their energy system for energy investments. Some significant number. That's a reason to go there if you want to play in that space. So you got to be able to sort through the noise. It's like anything. What I learned from working with private equity guys, the first thing they want to ask is, what's my downside risk? Not how much money I can make. What's my downside risk? Once they understand that, then you start looking at what you can do with that. Africa is ripe for investments at all different levels. And I tell you, going back to McKenna's, what he was talking about this morning, relationship. You have a built-in relationship with Papa and the ALG. When you go there and the access that you get and what you see and what you experience is second to none. That's how you start developing that comfort to be able to make investment, whether it's your own personal time, personal investment, or whether it's with your firm. So,
Thank you, Ken. So, Monica, the same question.
So I think one of the things that when we see Africa from the lens of a Westerner, and when we see African Americans from the lens of an African, I think it has all been orchestrated. It is something that is set up so that we work against each other. So what I see now happening, at least in the past 10 years, where Africa is taking the initiative to rebrand itself, and rebrand itself so that people start to see it as an investment place. And so there again, we as people from the continent have to make sure that other people understand the opportunities, and when there are things that are in the news that are even we fall for example, Ebola in Uganda. People weren't traveling to Uganda, and it was actually impacting their tourism. And so what you see is that there are 22 people in a whole nation that may have had Ebola, and the impact of that is so significant because of the way it is portrayed here. But I went there, and I just got back 2 weeks ago, and things were just as normal as they always have been. So what I'm trying to say is that when we are responsible for branding ourselves, for letting people know what the opportunities are, and for debunking these things that are in the news. And I think that which is something that I admire about what you're doing, is trying to bring the African and the African American community together, because our power is significant. And if we can work together to overcome all these other structural things that are in place that prevent us from doing that, we can make an impact both in Africa and for ourselves here.
Thank you. Well said. Dr. Ibrahim. Same question, yes.
This one I will ask. I will answer your question. So I think that the perception of instability in Africa is sometimes overshouted, because if you count down the number of people shut down daily in the world, you will not have Africa in the top 10, mostly. But the media show Africa in a way that is not the real perception we should have. And we know that. Before, I was the same, like you say in your introduction. Everything that was shown by the media, to me, it was true, what was happening. But when you travel in a country, and before you travel, you see all the alert, and you get in that country, you see that it's just like here. So nothing is happening. Maybe there is a security issue, but it's not that the thing that should stop investment. What is important when you invest in Africa or anywhere in the world is the governance and the stability of the institution, because you will invest your money, so you will need to have a kind of authorization if you are working on mine or energy or whatever. If the rule of the governance is not stable, this is where the danger is, but it's not because there is some conflict at the border. It happens everywhere. And it's not something that we can feel when you are in the ground. I have traveled, as you said, maybe in most than half of the country in the world. So I've been in very, very complicated countries like Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, where they have never seen black people. So I remember when I was working, people were stopping and applaud, because for them, how an African can travel to Kazakhstan or to Kyrgyzstan, they never seen black people. And I was visiting a museum, but the people from the museum were visiting me. So it's just to let you know that it's not because you are in a place where you are not comfortable that you should not invest. When you want to invest, you just have to consider if the rules are very stable and the governance also, meaning justice and everything, is stable enough. And I think that Africa is working very hard. There is differences between countries. Some countries are very strong in marketing to attract investment. Some other countries are very poor. But the trend is Africa is picking up, because the growth rate is higher, the education level is getting higher, the skills, the infrastructure, everything is moving. It's just like maybe this country 100 years ago. But the thing is now, the potential of Africa is unique. There is no region in the world where there is such potential than in Africa. So I would like to ask to all the investors to come in Africa, and if possible by the door of Senegal, and to spend some money and then continue
To go
up to Nairobi.
Thank you, thank you. Dr. Mboub, as somebody also that work in investment firm, that sit in many rooms, how do you overcome those comments and challenges?
This is one question I just say ditto. I think what they've explained is absolutely the nut we're all trying to crack. It's to defeat perception, you must be present. Perception can't be defeated from afar. So whenever you have a perception of something, you want to defeat it. Only your 2 feet and your own eyes could help you defeat it. And they said so.
No, thank you. Well said. Jason, I guess you are here. So okay.
This is not good, y'all. You all did not disappoint on submitting fantastic questions. What is disappointing is the clock. We don't have much time, but there's a solution. We continue this conversation on the rooftop over drinks in just a few minutes. How about that? We'll squeeze in 1 or 2.
By the way, do you see the many people already grabbing their bags? You said drinks. They said,
I didn't say it, he did. Listen, here's a question. I'm going to remix it just a little bit. It says, what industries present the greatest opportunities for partnerships between Colorado and Africa businesses over the next 5 years? But I'll say industries or areas of interest or social impact, because there's so many questions in here about not only economic investment, but also social impact stuff. So what industries or impact areas are most ripe for partnerships, and be as specific and brief as you can. Maybe we get a couple more questions. Anybody?
This one I would be fast. Just two health.
That's what you say. Let's go.
So two area, infrastructure, health. To me,
Okay.
it's, the two area we need to connect more investment. I will not say education because it's a long way. Education is now being obsoleted with the new AI, so I will not spend time to. say
Whoever
about that.
asked the health practice question earlier, you get with him later. All right, anyone else on industry or impact areas?
Look, I'm in the energy space. This is the space that I know, I live in. There are amazing opportunities to collaborate, for collaborations between Colorado and Africa. And, you know, energy technologies and so forth. My focus in Senegal and other places right now is on social impact investments. That's an area that's near and dear to my heart. Again, it's just where I am in my journey. So.
I have the pleasure of having some insight into this. It's not that there's not a possibility of return on the investments that Ken is making. It's just that that's not his focus. So both things can exist, an economic return and doing good in the world, and he's diving into it. Anyone else want to take that one?
I want to chime in quickly, and I want to invite other Africans here because this is something I'm currently dealing with. Sometimes you have, and especially when it comes to investment and business, there are some decisions, especially in this space, that you can make that might not be popular, but that can solve one issue, and on the other hand, can create another one. Okay? For example, the industry of tobacco. Okay? And I know politically in the United States there's a lot of fights, but in some situations you are dealing with crises of unemployment, where people cannot even provide food on the table. If you go to them and tell, okay, this job is available, but I advise you not to take it, but yet I can't eat. So sometimes there are some decisions that you have to just balance a little bit. And it might not be popular, but it might be the right thing to do at that time.
Yeah. Monica?
To follow on to that, actually, Africa Development Promise, the organization that I run, had the opportunity to get funding through Monsanto. And Monsanto has seed that doesn't reseed. So it was a huge debate amongst the board because whether or not we should align ourselves with them. And at the time, we decided not to. Not me, but the board. So therefore, I had to follow along. But the point being that actually, you know, it's not a good solution. However, it's the difference between eating and not eating.
Right.
And you have to make that decision. Sometimes it's really hard. And sometimes people don't understand that they're coming from a point of privilege and they can make that decision. But you, the consumer, the end person, would have difficulty making that decision.
Yeah.
So there's that. But going back to the sector, I think agriculture is one of the areas that has enormous potential in Africa, because what you find is about 70% of the people are in the agricultural space in one way or another. And talking about infrastructure, in supporting agriculture, there are so many infrastructure needs, such as cold storage as a whole, irrigation, those kind of things, and value addition, all that can help the continent, prosper if we invest in agriculture.
Yeah. Quick rewind. Dr. Sheck, you missed it, but earlier in the day, there was this brutal but hilarious, candid conversation about perceptions, how Africans perceive Black Americans and how Black Americans perceive Africans. And it was like an overly honest moment. But this question is interesting. It kind of flips it on its head. What can Black Americans give to Africa in trade for what Africa can give to Black America? I think what they're trying to say is, what is or should be or can be special and unique about that connection? And I'd like to, that's all we have time for, so I'd like to hear from each of you. What can be or should be that special connection, or what is the uniqueness of opportunity between Africans and Black Americans? If your microphone works, sure.
I think that it is a very interesting question because the perception of African living in Africa, of what is the African diaspora, is very, very poor. I remember there was a time where the biggest Black country in the world was Brazil and not Nigeria. We don't realize that the African diaspora, they are perceiving that they are belonging to Africa. And from the other side, from the diaspora, I think that the connection is natural because, as someone said, it's a motherland. So we need to educate local Africans that the only land Africans are living is not Africa. Africans are living everywhere, mostly in America, North and South America. And the connection we need should be technical, cultural, financial, and all the ties, everything. We need to build the story of Africa. The story of Africa has been told by those who written the story. It's not.
I hope everybody heard that. It was a profound point that Africans living in Africa have a self-limiting view of what the influence and impact of Africa is. They don't understand the strength, the power, the numbers, the potential of everyone who has come out of Africa everywhere else. In other words, international mindset. We need to grow that. Wonderful.
So I think African Americans and Africans have a huge opportunity if we come together. And there's some, McKenna said this morning that there has to be a relationship that is built on trust and a relationship that is built on respect, that we respect one another and we come together with an idea that we are going to both prosper. So I'm not sure how we go about doing this. I think Papa's trying to do that. But there is, and we're just talking about a small group in Colorado, but there's a whole sphere of people who don't have that opportunity to learn. And so it's having more of ALGs in different states so that they can talk to people and educate people, and likewise on the continent for people to understand, like you said, the impact of Black people and of African Americans, because the perception there is still the same as the people who came here, who immigrated here. The perception is still the same there. And so we need to educate them there that African Americans also can be a partner that you can trust.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to take a little bit of a different take. I believe, success in life, 90% of it sometimes is just showing up. And I think we as African Americans just show up. Don't try and teach Africans anything about us. Just show up. Go there. 2 ears, someone said it this morning. 1 mouth, listen, observe, learn. You start from there. I don't think it's that complicated. One thing as Americans, we have this thing, right? We like to be leaning forward. We like to be leaning in. We want to get in there. We're working round the clock. By the way, I spent a lot of time in Italy, and let me tell you, that Italians can chill. They know how to chill. They know how to take a siesta. They close the bank sometimes from 3 to 5. If you want to come and knock on the door when it's closed, I would encourage not only African Americans here, but our white brothers and sisters that's in this room. Show up there. We all need each other. We all part of this same planet. And I just show up. Don't try and teach. Show up to learn. Open mind, open ear. You'll be surprised.
That's right. Well said. Sheikh, what's the special connection, or what can it or should it be?
See, look, I have a little different perspective on it. It won't be popular. That's why I was turning off my mic so you could skip me. I think one of the greatest limitations we apply on one another is categorization.
Yep.
When you categorize yourself into fill in the blank, whatever it is, you start to limit the potential of growth. Therefore, I don't think it's a dialogue between Africans and African Americans. I don't think it's a dialogue between a race and another. It's a humanitarian dialogue. It's a growth dialogue. And what makes those trade, when you're mentoring someone, what you don't realize is there's this self-sufficiency, there's this self-thank you that you get that uplifts your soul and your spirit. That's the reason why people may go into a room and open that door for someone. That thank you that they give, what does it do for you? It's a reward for your soul that you feel. So if you go and mentor someone within this continent and outside of this continent, you are self-inflicting something on yourself. The same goes for trade. The same goes from uplifting one another. I think the question that I would challenge everyone to ask themselves, how many categories do you belong in? And the many of them, as many as you could dictate to yourself, say to yourself, those are the limitations that you have.
Papa, it's on you to close out the panel and hand it back to Glo for dismissal into our reception.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much. Sometimes you plan something and you think like, oh, I kind of know what's happening. I have no idea this was going to be to this high level of conversation. Now, and to that question, this is what I will say. I don't know about the black American. All I know is we African, we need you, period. We cannot prosper in this nation without you. We cannot build without you. I don't care how many times you're going to close the door on me, I'm still going to show up. And that's what I've done. And today, you can look around the room. We have as many African American than African. Jason, I've taken him to Senegal more than 9 times. I have people in the black community that they are brothers and sisters. And I can name them. And I invite other African immigrants to do the same exact thing. Show up. If they give you a chair, show up. If they don't, bring one. Invite yourself into the conversation. Because at the end of the day, a black person can identify that he's from Jersey. To the eyes of the people in this country, we are all black. We're all the same. I invite you to think that way. So thank you.
All right, you guys just keep your seats and we're going to close out here.
You know, Papa, here's a little secret. You say, we need you Africans. We need the black Americans. Black America needs y'all too. We need y'all too. Even if we don't know it, we definitely need you. Please join me in thanking our panelists this afternoon. Today we have heard what is possible and what practical engagement requires. And of course, I want the man who you have heard and have been inspired about and for all afternoon to close out our formal program. And he is going to invite you to the next step of today's program. Please welcome the leader of the African American leaders, or excuse me, African, see, we need each other.
Same thing.
That's all I'm saying.
Same
African
thing.
Leadership Group, that would be founder and executive director, Papa M. Ja.
So thank you, Glo. Thank you. Let's give Glo a round of applause. So now, look, this is what I would like to close with. Obviously, give thanks to my team, amazing team, volunteers that's been doing the work. We couldn't do this without you. So I'm so grateful
Yes.
to all of you. And to all the friends and that show up partners, this is what the African Leadership Group is about. It is a family. Today I get to reconnect with friends that I haven't seen, David French being here. And for you to show up means a lot because since 2009, we go way back.
Yes.
And for you to come here means a lot to me. And I can name every single one of you. So I just want to invite you to continue this conversation. I have this relationship with every single one of you, but I invite you to ask yourself, how can I build the same relationship with everybody else in this room? We owe it to each other. The time is now. It's even more critical now than ever.
Yeah.
We have migrants that are being deported. We have migrants that are being jailed. Have proper document. We have black people that are being killed in this nation. Why? Because we are not united as we should. So I invite you to really to think critically. You might not do it for yourself, but you will do it for your children. You will do it for your neighbor. You will do it for your next brother and sister that will come to this country. The time is now. And I invite you to leave this room with that. So for everything that you have heard, we are going to be taking a delegation in December, from December 7 to December 17, 10 days trip. The QR code is on the pamphlet that you have. Scan the QR code, learn more, and let us know if you are interested. As you know, and you have heard from the governor this morning, the governor have declared the month of August as the African Immigrant Month. It's in the book. This is history. This is our legacy. We got to celebrate.
Absolutely.
So I invite you to join me on the rooftop. I invite you to join me on Saturday as we're going to be celebrating our cultural day. We have an amazing artist, amazing vendors, activities. Join us to celebrate. It's at the Levitt Pavilion. And one thing you will know about the African Leadership Group, everything we do it in partnership.
Yes.
We do it in collaboration. The Levitt Pavilion is another partner that we partner with to do our cultural event. It's going to be on Saturday from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. And we have our gala. There are still tickets available on Saturday, August 15, at the Denver Botanic Garden, a place that we call home.
Yeah.
We have celebrated our gala over there for the last 8 years. I invite you to join us into celebrating each other, celebrating our big family, and I thank you. So let's continue this party. Let's continue this celebration. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you, Papa. Thank you, thank you. And thank all of you for being a part of today's summit. Our conversation, of course, as Papa said, continues. So the rooftop, which has one of the best views of the city, 3 floors up, so you can either take the stairs or, oh, is it the 4th floor? Okay, yeah, so apparently you won't see it if you go to the 3rd floor. Okay, 4 floors. Hello, somebody. So elevator or the stairs, if you are so inclined, you can take those stairs and head on up there. But the conversation continues, and we will see you on the rooftop. Thank you, everyone. Oh, did we say free drinks? Oh, they just said free drinks, so I will see all y'all on the rooftop.